My name is Leonidas Aventus, and you're listening to Character Crusade, Skyrim Roleplay Workshop.
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Greetings, Crusaders. You're listening to Character Crusade, Skyrim Roleplay Workshop. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Rycon, also known as Scott.
What?
Yeah.
Also known as Scott. Now I'm confused.
Also known as Scott. Yeah. Rycon Roleplays, Raccoon, or sometimes Recon. There's a lot of different variations people tend to chuck out there.
What do people yell when they try to get your attention?
Yeah. But Rycon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you on the show finally. We've been kind of itching to talk to you about your role play style and some of the games you like for quite a while now, so welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Good. Well, I mean, for those of you who aren't familiar with Scott's work, you can find him on YouTube, Rycon Roleplays. And you're kind of known for sort of taking role play, I think, to the next level where some of these games are concerned. And what I've noticed in watching your videos is that I tend to forget that I'm watching a game and it feels more like I'm watching a movie. I felt that way really a lot when I was watching your Division Let's Play stuff. For some reason, I just forgot that I was watching gameplay at all. It felt like I was watching an action film, which was pretty interesting stuff. It's kind of amazing. So maybe tell us a little bit about your channel, the kinds of things that you do, and how you got into it, Scott.
Sure. Okay, so my channel is based, as you said, around role-playing, and role-playing is in the name as well. And I guess it's my kind of take at trying to do something different when it comes to Let's Plays. I guess perhaps the best way to talk about it might be to kind of go into my origin story of sorts.
Yeah, let's do that.
So,
we like origins.
Okay, all right, I'll dive in. So, this was back in the year 2013, and I was working as a camera operator for a comedy show in New Zealand, which is where I live. And we had a very tight turnaround on one of our lunch breaks. So I was racing down the stairs as fast as I could, bowl of noodles in my hand to try and get them to the microwave to heat them up so I could get through lunch really quick and get back to shooting. However, I had a pretty epic tumble at the bottom of the stairs. I did a little bit of a jump when I landed on the ground, thought it looked all cool, thought it was fine, but my ankle kind of just rolled out from underneath my foot, and at the most peculiar angle, and it kind of threw me on the ground, and I thought it was fine because I hadn't really done any kind of serious injuries to myself before, and figured that I'd be all right. I tried to take a few steps and I kept on falling down. I was like, this is weird. I can't walk on my foot. This isn't good. But I was like, I'm sure if I just put some ice on it after the lunch break, I'll be fine. So I left my shoe on and everything and thought it was all good. You know, I ate my lunch and I was like, okay, cool. I'll see if I can walk now. And I really, really couldn't walk. And I was like, okay, maybe I should take my shoe off now and have a look at it. So I take it off and my entire ankle is like this deep kind of black color. and it's about twice the size of my other foot. And because I struggled to get the shoe off as well, and instantly, one of my good friends, who's a sounder, he was like, "Oh, yep, you've broken your ankle. That's definitely a break. I can tell from that." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's just fan-frickin-tastic."
Here, let me poke it.
So, yeah. From there, I ended up going to the hospital really quickly. Found out that it wasn't broken. It was a very, very bad sprain, but it would mean that I'd be off my feet for around about 3 weeks or so on crutches, and it meant I was going to be away from work. And so I was kind of stuck at home, and all my friends and coworkers were off doing creative things. And I was kind of just sitting there twiddling my thumbs going, I want to be doing something with this time. It was the first time in a long time that I had a lot of free time. And back then I had been watching Inferno Canuck, who is a fantastic role player. And he's got an excellent roleplay series on Fallout 3.
Okay.
And when I saw him doing his role play, that's pretty much what spurred me to do mine, because I started trying to search for other material out there because I was like, this is amazing. There's got to be more out here on YouTube. And so I started searching and I couldn't find anything. I did find lots of kind of traditional kind of role-playing videos, which were kind of more of a blend between a Let's Play that's more focused on the character, but it still is it's the person still commenting. So it isn't that kind of full immersion. And so this was the first time I'd seen that style done. And because I couldn't find any others, I really wanted to watch something. And so I decided, I was like, well, I'll just make something for myself to watch. And so I started my New Vegas series with Logan. And that's pretty much how it started from there. I started making these videos for myself so that I'd have something to watch and kind of experience while I was off my feet and couldn't do anything. And I decided to start getting them up onto YouTube, and more people started kind of coming to the party and enjoying what it was becoming. So yeah, that's the origin story. I can take a bit of a breath now.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's kind of amazing. It's interesting, right? Because I talk to quite a few people about their YouTube channels, and there's quite often there's this story of it's some kind of a transformative moment or something that happens that forces the issue a little bit and makes people turn to YouTube as a creative outlet. So
oftentimes it seems to be physical injury.
sometimes.
You're 100% right. I went to a YouTube event recently, and the amount of content creators that I talked to there who started their channel because of either falling down the stairs or some other kind of leg injury, it's amazing.
By the way, did you tell your friend that he totally lied to you, that looks like a broken ankle?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, the other thing that I neglected to mention was that when I actually did get to the hospital, the doctor was like, that's weird. I've never seen anything like that before.
Oh, that's what you want to hear.
Exactly. You never want to hear that because it was a very thick band of swelling.
Wow.
And so they weren't quite sure what was going on.
So
But
was it your ankle that was swollen or the whole foot?
It was more the ankle and the foot. It was a weird one for sure, but it kind of healed properly, but it never has been quite what it was before. But really, I'm fine with the sacrifice I paid.
Right.
I paid the iron price to start YouTube, and I'm loving what I'm doing now. So
if it had happened a few years earlier, you could have been the foot double for Elijah Wood.
Exactly. You're right.
You missed your opportunity. Damn.
I really did miss. Yeah.
Yeah, I never want to be in the hospital, though, when the doctor says, hey, everyone, come here and look at this.
Yeah.
We're going to write this up and put it in the journals.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's one thing a doctor is not allowed to say. We've never seen this before. Oh, that's really interesting and strange and weird.
Yeah. There's something in their classes regarding bedside manner that I think says you're not supposed to say things like, we have no idea what this is.
Yeah,
we've never seen
Can
this
you do
before.
it to the other foot just to see if it happens the same way?
Yeah.
Yeah, or let out kind of a yell of surprise.
Well, Logan's story is still going, right?
It is. It is. So Logan's story at the moment is actually kind of in a prequel of sorts. So we've dived back into Fallout 3 because his story extends through both games. So he got to a certain point in New Vegas where he was able to, access damaged memories, and those kind of pathways are being healed as we're speaking. So what we're seeing in Fallout 3 is what Logan in New Vegas is actually seeing and remembering.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a bit confusing, especially for a new viewer coming on and going, there are two characters and they seem really similar and they have the same name, but they're in two very different locations and I'm not quite sure what's going on at the time. So I kind of did a little bit of an episode to help kind of like set things straight there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still going. If I'm counting the episodes as a whole, I think we're up to around about like 130, 140 episodes now.
Wow.
So it's come a long way in the 2.5 years that I've been telling his story.
Well, yeah, it's pretty amazing. You do some very, I think, interesting things, like outside the box types of things. One thing that comes to mind particularly is some of the real footage that you shot of yourself for like Outlast and that kind of stuff in your intro and stuff, where you actually have, because that game, you're playing that game exclusively in first person, right?
Yeah.
So we never really see the protagonist's face. So that gave you an opportunity to kind of do your own video lead in. And I don't know how you recorded that or where you recorded it, but it's interesting kind of using your own face as supposedly the character that we're following through that adventure. I've
really
watched
cool.
a little bit of that one as well, but I've watched far more of your Skyrim and Division work. So how did that whole thing come together? Because I found that to be kind of interesting.
The live action side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it came from when I first started Outlast. Actually, I started playing the game before I recorded the intro. So I was playing it for a little bit, and I honestly I don't know where it came from, but I was feeling ultra creative that day, I think. And I just decided I wanted to try and push that role-playing further. So take it to that next level where I hadn't seen someone do a live action kind of role-play for a game before. So I figured, why not? Yeah. I felt like it really fit. And like you said, we didn't have a face for the protagonist. So I felt like by having that face in the intro, it kind of gives that, it kind of helps you imagine the person that's behind the camera. And
It gives a little more personal feel.
Yeah. Like you feel like you know them just that little bit better, and you can imagine them in the situation that they're in a little bit more solidly.
Cool. Rycon LARPs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've never done any LARPing, but it's the kind of thing where I imagine it would actually be quite fun if I got around to doing it, because I've been role playing for a very long time. Before I started doing YouTube, I've been doing Dungeons and Dragons and all other kinds of pen and paper role playing games with a good group of friends of mine. We get together every Friday or so.
Oh, nice.
And have like a game night.
Nice.
And we've been doing that for a good like 4 or 5 years now. And we've had a few campaigns that have been running for a very, very long time as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you, do you dungeon master frequently?
Well, I've only done that for one series, and it's a game that I kind of made my own. It's actually, it's kind of like super secret at the moment, but I'm working on a book currently for this system that I've been developing for like the last few years.
Awesome.
And it's a series that I've been the GM for throughout the whole time, and it's a post-apocalyptic zombie survival setting.
Okay.
The zombies more because I find they're a good mechanism to get the world into a place where, well, it's different enough that the setting challenges people. And the survival side of it as well, because survival pushes people to do things that they wouldn't usually want to do.
Right.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, are you using a specific rule set and just creating the environment or the world concept, or are you creating kind of the rule set for gameplay as well?
Well, for the longest time, it was like a very free-form game. There wasn't a lot of numbers, and there wasn't a lot of rolling to it. It was actually more just like straight-up role-playing.
Oh.
But now I've kind of tried to make the system with a good friend of mine who has his own pen and paper production company. He's actually been firing out quite a few, and he's got this great base system that we're going to be able to use for this. And so it's it's still in development at the moment, but it's come along, and I think it's going to be a really, really strong role-playing tool because the actual system itself really does push people. Because you're going to be feeling your hunger, you're going to be feeling your thirst, you're going to be feeling tired, and all of those things are going to push your character to do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. Because I found that when it's just straight up role playing, it's too easy to be the good guy all the time, especially in those scenarios where you are in a position where the world is kind of falling apart and morality is out the window. Yeah, exactly. There isn't usually a sense of desperation, but when you can see your character is in pain, you can see that they're in hunger, it's gonna create those role-playing situations where you do have to do difficult or uncomfortable things.
Yeah, that's really intriguing.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, we quite often have this discussion around Skyrim. I think we had an episode once where we discussed at length the concepts of, how do you play a character that is, I don't know, evil, vile, dark, or capable of dark things, right? When the game so often tries to steer you into kind of an altruistic direction, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall into that trap of feeling like you're the savior of Tamriel, right? As opposed to somebody who's out for themselves. And how do you kind of maintain that in the face of so much game content that really is pushing you the direction of becoming the good character? It's a really kind of intriguing idea. I like the idea of a mechanic that sort of forces the issue, because when you boil everything down, when you're threatened with starvation or physical harm, if I got to, punch out the guy next to me and steal his Snickers, that might be what I got to do, That's interesting. I like it.
But I guess that's the thing. Yeah, playing evil characters it's never easy, because finding that motivation is difficult, because especially when it's the classic kind of villain, the take over the world, destroy the world type thing. Then there's that awkward period afterwards once you've done it.
Yeah,
where it's like, well, what do we do now? I'm just kind of twiddling my finger, destroy the world, or I achieve these amazing things, but what do I do?
No one left.
Yeah.
I think villains can be great to play, but it's difficult. I like you say, playing one in Skyrim would be really, really quite hard, because, like you say, there is just so much there to kind of force you into that, being that hero, being that savior. But I think that's why I'm trying to do something a little bit different with Leon's Tale, because, well, at least at the beginning, he was very reluctant. And I think even now, even in the latest episodes, he's still very reluctant about his fate, about what he's there to do, being the Dragonborn, being the savior of Skyrim. He hasn't quite accepted that yet. He knows that he can do these great and terrible things, but he's also afraid of what he can do as well, because he's seen what he can do because of his curse that he carries with him. And so I'm trying as best I can to try and have a character that, not an anti-hero, but somewhere kind of in between, where he isn't the knight in shining armor, but isn't fully doing what he does for the good of everyone else.
Right. Yeah, you can kind of you can hear that, through the voice acting. He's obviously a thinker, and he thinks. You spend a lot of time kind of inside Leon's head, hearing what he thinks about all the things that are going on. And there's definitely a sense you get in listening to his inner monologue, that he cares about people. He wants to save people. He doesn't want to harm people, but he's also got this kind of inner demon that he's struggling with in the form of a werewolf, which there are times when it seems abhorrent to him and other times when he seems like he's coming to terms with it, right?
Yeah.
And he's ready to leverage that or something to do what he needs to do. So I think that's a level of complication that makes a character much more interesting to follow and certainly much more interesting to build a story around. That's for sure. You know?
Yeah, I think I've been quite lucky with him so far. And actually just the occurrences in Skyrim, because when I started, I had an arc set in mind. And this is kind of how I do all my role plays, where I have the character's initial motivations, but I don't try to plan too far ahead or script. I've never written a script for any of my role plays. I try to just go into every single episode with my character's basic motivations in mind and allow the game world to organically create story. Mm-hmm. And what's exciting for me then is that I'm going into each episode just as blind as the viewer, because Leon shouldn't know the script. He shouldn't know what's going to happen next, and he doesn't. And that allows me to then kind of give, I think, more legitimate reactions to things, or to at least try to feel those reactions as Leon would be feeling to them, and then kind of give like a realistic response. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I'm there with him. I'm there. I haven't set the scenario. I haven't set what's going on. I'm there experiencing it alongside him.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a big advantage in that.
Yeah, sometimes it can work out really well. Other times it can be a little bit difficult. Skyrim can be quite a difficult game to do as well. It's probably the most that I struggle with out of all the different games that I've got serious kind of going for at the moment. Mm-hmm. It's challenging, but it can be really rewarding when it actually, you know, kind of pays off.
Right. I think one of the things that is distinctive about the way that you piece your episodes together, and I watched your video on how you kind of put together an episode.
Yeah.
And I was really intrigued by your methodology, right? Because it gets at exactly what you're talking about right now, because you're not scripting something, but your character is reacting to the things that are happening in the moment. So whereas, for example, when I'm crafting a story, if I've got a character who's got some kind of a monologue going on, I will write a script for that monologue, and I will read and record that monologue, and then I will match it up with the footage that I think best suits the moment. Whereas what I've noticed in the way that you're doing things is you'll have an encounter, and then you kind of pause the game, and you do this recording in the moment where it will be inserted directly. And if you're not happy with the recording, you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. Nothing's written down, but the reactions are immediate, right? Which is a different, it creates kind of a different feel, I would think, right? Where you're speaking in the moment, and in order to do that, you have to have kind of a deep understanding of the character, who they are, their past experience and motivations and all that stuff. When you get so many episodes in to a Let's Play like yours, do you ever have difficulty, trying to remember the things you've said like previously and stuff like that? Because
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be moments where, I'll forget something has occurred in the past, but I try to absorb it as much as possible and kind of keep it in there, so that Leon doesn't kind of go over the same points again and again and again. But I wouldn't be surprised if I have made a few slip-ups and there are a few inconsistencies along the way. But I think it's just been the nature of the series from the start that occasionally there will be there'll be slip ups or he won't say something the right way, or he'll make a mistake when he's talking. But I kind of like it in a way, because when normal people are talking, not everything we're saying is poetry. It doesn't come out completely clear, and it doesn't it's not always without stutters or
Yeah.
without breath.
Stu only speaks in poetry.
Oh, I see. He has quite a melodic voice.
It's hard when he goes into haiku mode.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, that's really kind of funny too, because, you know, people who follow stuff like this on YouTube, they really love it, you know? And so what I find is like, if I mess something up, man, they'll remind me too, like, well, 40 episodes, you said this and this and this ago, you know, whatever. And I'll be like, damn, how do you remember that? I wrote that shit and I don't remember that, you know? But it's pretty incredible.
I guess that's the thing, because especially for a new viewer as well, they have the advantage of watching an entire playlist, like an entire year's worth of work in the space of like 3 days.
Binge watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true.
There's been a few people that have been binge watching some of the series, and I'm amazed when they managed to get through it in like 2 or 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder how much they can notice, like how much they pick up, because there's got to be stuff in there, surely, that I've missed or made a mistake with, or forgot that something was there, and yeah. But it usually smooths itself out okay. I think I only did one episode towards the start where I started off in a completely different point to where I left off, and it didn't make sense because I redid a section and I'd forgotten about it. And so there was this whole section where Leon went down to this tavern, had a conversation, and then did a whole heap of other things at the end of the episode, and then we do the same thing at the start of the next episode, except it was slightly different. And it was one of those things where early on I was still experimenting with it, and I completely was unaware that I'd done the same thing twice. But that's luckily the only time that's happened, I think.
It was an inadvertent flashback.
Yes, yeah.
Repressed memories.
Glitch in the Matrix.
He was drinking at the time, so that might have been part of it. At least that was my excuse in the comments. I was like, you know, Leon was drunk. You know, it's just, you know, it's all a blur to him. It's all the same thing. Yeah.
Hey, you know, as the
tell you the story.
As the creator, you could do anything you need to, right? Take whatever you
Very
want.
true.
Yeah, I think I have come up with some pretty creative explanations for things in the past.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was all a dream.
Yeah,
That's my favorite one.
Inception version.
There's kind of an ongoing joke at the moment where Leon keeps on mistaking Janessa in Whiterun for, oh gosh, what's her name? The dark elf who serves Jarl Balgruuf.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What is her name?
Starts with I. And I keep wanting to say Irilith, but that's
No, I think that is it.
It might be it.
Irilith? Oh, yeah.
Irilith, yeah.
I was thinking Irithil, which is Dark Souls 3, so I got a little confused there. But yeah,
Or Enaroth.
it is Irilith. Yes.
Not Irilith.
Yeah. So there's this ongoing thing where he keeps on mistaking Janessa for Irilith, and he's kind of give these long-winded apologies to Janessa about slaughtering her men, and so Janessa's just sitting in this bar thinking, what the hell is this man talking about? and so there's kind of this ongoing joke now where I've done it twice by complete accident, and every time
Really?
I kind of completely face palmed afterwards and gone, oh my god, that was Janessa. That's not
Awesome.
that's not Erlich.
Well, you got to
But that's
roll
the
with the
problem.
punches.
God.
That's
awesome.
the problem with me playing with no HUD on, is that I don't see the names, so I actually don't know who I'm talking to.
Right.
And they do look alike. I'm not being racial about dark elves, but some of them look similar. And Janessa and Irilith are two that do look quite similar. And so Leon has made that mistake before, but I've kind of worked it into the story now that he has done that, and that Janessa has probably more than likely passed that information on.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah. So some definitely some face palmy moments there.
Well, that's what this game does. I feel like this game, if I were to describe it, I would call it a story engine. You know, it's just it creates these wonderful situations. So one of my favorite things to do is just create some kind of off-the-wall character concept, drop it into that environment, and walk it through and see what the hell happens, because it's always different, it's always interesting, it's always entertaining, and I never get tired of it. You know, it doesn't matter how many times I've tread the same roads between, two cities or whatever. Something different happens every single time, and it's fun every time. So, it's really cool.
I think that's what captured me about Bethesda's games when I first started playing. My first game of theirs was Morrowind, and it just blew my mind. The fact that it was open world, you weren't on rails, you could go anywhere, you could do anything, you could kill anyone, you could steal anything.
Yeah.
There were no restrictions to the game, and it just completely changed my what my idea of a video game was. And I think they're world simulators where you can go into with, like you say, a character that can have any of a number of different traits, and it just completely changes the gaming experience and the way that you react to things in the world. So there are so many stories to be told within that space, which is why I'm excited about role-playing, and especially role-playing on YouTube, is that I think there's so much untapped content out there because the story can be told from so many different perspectives. Even if you are just doing the main storyline, there are so many different ways to look at it and approach it as a different character.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty astounding, all the variation that you can get. And then when you add on top of that, all the variation you can get from all the various mods and stuff that have been built for this game over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really, the potential is limitless because you can create a concept for a story that is built around a single mod that intrigues you, and just play that through to the hilt and have a wonderful time. And then when you're done, start all over in a different way and have a completely different experience. That's what our podcast is all about, is what we've been talking about for 30 episodes now. We never get sick of it, and it's pretty awesome.
Even within that, just the little unintended happenstances that occur.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of the notice boards for Robard.
Yeah.
Happened to pick up a note that was by the character's mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Totally not even realizing it, but you'd already
Yep.
established that Ravencrone was your mother.
It was
And
actually
then
really artfully
you
done.
just grab this thing off of a notice board, and it's from his mother,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, I guess I can't ignore this one.
Because he hates his mother. I mean, he'd just gone on
great.
several episodes about how he hated his mother and had this really contentious relationship with her. And
then
so
this just
he pulls a note off the notice board trying to impress a girl. It's like, what can I pick off the notice board here that's going to look really impressive? And he's like, slay the beast. And he picks it up, and it's like from his mother, and he's like, fuck,
God damn it, Mom.
and that just kind of spun off a whole monologue about, damn it, I can't get out of it now. I can't put it back on there because I'll never save face with this girl, so he's stuck with it, right? And that kind of stuff happens
now
all
he's
the time.
going to have to have this conversation with his mother when he goes to try and turn in the
Yeah.
the bounty collector's reward.
Yeah, he can't get his money unless he goes and talks to Mom. So it forces a confrontation that I hadn't planned on.
It's what happens when you try to
fantastic.
impress a woman.
I think that's the greatest thing. Yeah, it is those unplanned moments, and I think that's why I try to keep things as vague as possible when I go in, because it allows for those moments where I'm like, oh no, this isn't right. This isn't the direction I want to go in. It just absorbing all those events organically creates the episode, and I think that's why we're it's great that we have this tool to tell a story with, and it's great that people are doing this now, because I feel like this might change the way that people make games in the future, because they will not only look at them as a tool of kind of relaxation and leisure, but they're also going to be story-making tools for people to be able to use. And I think we're even seeing that in games like weirdly enough, we're seeing that in stuff like GTA. So GTA 5 has their director mode, which allows you to kind of like make these scenes and creates, these skits and shorts and stuff like that. And it's just a very different way of playing that game. So instead of playing the game just to, play it, you're playing it and creating a story with it. So I'll be interested to see, if we see more of that in the future in games, if we see more things like the director mode in GDA, kind of giving more kind of tools actually built into the game for that.
Right.
Seems that there's a big advantage to the gaming companies to do that, right? Because everyone gets to see the power of what's out there in the game, whether you're modded or not. If you've got a director mode in the game, you're done playing, you're just going to go make some videos with your friends. You're going to say, I can get the biggest jump, I can do the biggest whatever, and share that online, and your buddies can go out there and watch it.
Yeah.
And try to up you.
And try to help you or try to outdo you.
Right.
Well, just look at the fact that you can go on Netflix and you can stream Red versus Blue.
Yeah.
Which that's awesome. I mean, the fact that you can do that, and those are hilarious. I love those. One of the things that is interesting about the direction this conversation is going is that the encounters that you're talking about having with Leon and being able to react to these different things and stuff like that, and the encounter that I had with Robart and his mother and all this stuff, they're specific to making that happen. You have to have taken a little bit of time to understand the character's motivations and have enough of a background for that character for this to be a problem, right? For this to be an issue.
Right.
So one of the things I'm interested in talking to you about is sort of what is that process like for you to flesh out a character in preparation for entering into a game like Skyrim, for example, or Fallout. What do you feel like the basic information is that you need going in to really understand how the character is going to react to the things that happen in that environment?
Yeah, see, Skyrim was definitely, it was different from New Vegas for me, because New Vegas being the first series, I felt like it was a good place for me to start, because Logan had just, been pulled out of the grave. He'd been shot in the head. He had complete amnesia. He had no idea who he was, where he was from. And he was very, I don't know, almost just, he was very undefined because he hadn't had any experiences to define him. All of those had been kind of wiped out and taken away from him. And so what I really enjoyed there was that I allowed the game world to sculpt him and to change him and affect him and change him into the character that he is now, which is very different from how he started. But with Leon, I did have to do a bit more preparation because obviously he has a backstory. He has had all these experiences that make him the character that he is when he starts that first episode. But at the same time, I did still want to keep parts of him vague to allow the game to shape aspects of his personality. But it is important. It is really important to have a strong grasp on that character and where they stand, because especially with my style of doing it, I need to know instantly how they're going to react to a situation, whether they're going to jump in to save someone, whether they're going to stand back and be more cautious, whether they're likely to help someone with there being no kind of monetary gain for it. All of those things are really important to know right off the bat. And for Leon, I did have to flesh those things out a little bit more. So it was a lot of just like, it was a lot of sitting and thinking and trying to feel that character as much as possible. And then also trying to bring in the pain with him, because he starts off as a very, very broken person because he's fled a land that he loves and has fought for and bled for to try and protect the people that he loves and cares for. And that he, he's essentially, he's pretty much dead to them now. And so, it was important for me to have all these things because they were going to launch him into this new experience in Skyrim. And I was still open to allow the game to change him. And it has. He's changed a lot from where he kind of started off. But he still does have a lot of growing to do as well. But yeah, it's hard to try and find that character, but it needs to be someone that you can believe in, someone that you can feel like you can almost sit down and have a conversation with. But it is possible to go in without too much behind them, especially, like I said, starting off Logan, it was completely fresh, and I think I was kind of lucky to start off in that regard, where I had a character that was, had complete amnesia. But some of the others that I've done, they haven't required as much backstory because their backstory, it's not so important to the overall story. Like Aaron Swanson, for example, who's the main character in the Division series at the moment. We don't know too much about his past, but I'm looking forward to kind of revealing more of that as the story progresses. But it hasn't been a big part of the story so far, so that isn't something that I need to have completely fleshed out before I start the series. It's part of him, but it's not what defines him. What defines him is his training, his beliefs, and his responsibility. Those are the things that power him and get him up every morning. So it's different. It's different from each series. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I think is maybe daunting about Skyrim for people who are newer to role play is just how wide open it is. And when you start thinking about doing a new playthrough and you really feel like what you want to do is role play it, it starts to look like a really difficult exercise, because your first reaction is, oh, I need this character background, and I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And we're always looking for ways to simplify that. And we've come up, I think, with some different techniques that help us do that, so we don't have to go in with quite so much.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that is important too is that you allow your backstory almost to breathe a little bit based on the things that happen. Because if you've if you've fenced yourself in so firmly that you end up going down a road in game that wouldn't be your preferred road and might not make you feel as enthusiastic for the playthrough as if you could do something else, then that's a bit limiting as well. So I think, we're always looking for ways that we can kind of understand what the character's motivations are and what their vulnerabilities are through, tiny little pieces of background story or things like that allow us to capture who the character is and play them without feeling like we're completely boxed in and can't take a right turn when the story's telling us we should have taken a left, that kind of stuff. And
there's a lot of progressive disclosure. That's an opportunity there. You don't walk up and meet somebody new and tell them your entire life story right away. There's no context. There's no real explanation there. So same thing's happening with Inga right now. There's reason for me to start crafting a backstory as I'm going through, but it's not like I wrote the entire thing in the beginning. People ask questions and I try to respond to it in my own mind. I wasn't even playing her character as something in particular, as an entire chapter of backstory. It's sort of coming to light as I'm playing, which is a little bit of an advantage for me because I don't know all the lore and everything. But
that is difficult, especially with Skyrim as well. There is so much. There's such a rich history to the Elder Scrolls universe that, like you say, it can be really daunting going into it. But what I found was great about Leon was that he was an outsider, and I think that's one of the best things to do when you're starting off with your role play, is that it kind of excuses you for not knowing things, because Skyrim is a foreign land. It's part of the Empire, but there are a lot of customs and practices that you might not know of, and so as a role player, it's okay for you to not know everything about Skyrim going into it. So it would be much harder, I think, to do a role play as a Nord who has lived in Skyrim their entire life, because then you'd really be expected to know every nook and cranny, or to know the roads very well and never get lost, because you would have traveled these paths, many times over the years.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It is, and the authored experience has you coming in as an outsider, crossing the border, presumably running away from something or running towards something, right? So Bethesda has a way of kind of setting up the Elder Scrolls games that way, making you an outsider from the start, so that you can go in and logically have these new experiences,
start learning.
Starting from the beginning.
It's an empathy test. Are you okay stealing from these people you don't know? Are you supposed to kill Lucius in the first round you ever play? No, you're not supposed to do that, despite the fact some of us may have done that.
Fill in the appropriate circle for your response.
That's why I think I've found Fallout 4 so difficult, because and this is why I've done a full kind of Let's Play series.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, because, well, the thing is, it's kind of what I was talking about, like being a local. The thing is, you've lived in Boston your entire life. So you're meant to know these things. You're meant to know where things are. Now, the world's changed a lot in 200 years, but, the layout is still the same. The city's still the same. You've probably been to these places before, before the war, before all of this collapsed. So I think there's a tragedy in that as well, because you do have a memory of how things were. And to be able to go into that as a role player, like fresh, like right from the start, because originally I wanted to do a blind role play, but that would have been a disaster. So it's one of those games where you really need to go the whole way through to be able to tell a story with that character. You could kind of go in a different direction and maybe try and not role play as the Vault 111 sole survivor. It'd be difficult because a lot of the quests kind of guide you towards that path, but that would kind of allow you to get away from the idea of you having to have all this knowledge from before.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that you went into your Fallout 4 Let's Play with the idea that was sort of an exercise in research so that you could understand the game completely before doing what you would consider to be a role play. And I mean, you're 113 episodes into your research now. It's like it's kind of amazing. So that is a good segue into my next question, which is there are some games that are ideally suited to the kind of role play that we like to do. You've come up with some innovative ideas to do role play inside of games that maybe aren't necessarily set up ideally for it. However, things like New Vegas and Fallout 3 and Skyrim, games like that, they're wonderful for role play because there's so much control, and you're not forced into playing a specific character. So I guess one question I have then is kind of how that comes together for you. I mean, when you look at the landscape of the types of games that are out there, what do you feel like are the characteristics that you're looking for in a game, from a role play perspective, I guess?
They change all the time. I think when I started, I was very much of the mindset that it needed to be an open world game. It couldn't be just a linear story. But that's been changing, or at least my mind has been changing about that since doing series like Outlast, which I think in terms of role playing has probably been one of my most favorite experiences yet, just because it's one of those games where I don't have to be terrified. Red Barrels do a great job at creating that atmosphere, so I don't have to do a lot of acting. I just have to play along. And
it's creepy, man.
Especially doing a blind as well. It means you don't know where the jump scares are, and and even though that's a game that's on rails, it's just a linear path. It still does allow you to do a lot of role playing and to feel what that character's feeling, and that's been changing more and more for me. Like after New Vegas, I think the second series that I started alongside with Skyrim was Project Zomboid. And Project Zomboid's a top-down isometric zombie survival game. And that was a challenge because that was so out of the box for what I was doing back then in terms of like the kind of cinematic intro, outros, and the rest. And I kind of just went back to the basics of what role-playing was, and that I didn't need all these flashy things to do it. You could tell a story with a character that was only a few pixels on the screen and still make it entertaining and engaging and no spoilers for the end. But a lot of people, it brought a lot of people to tears, and that's probably the most kudos that I can get as a role player, bringing people to tears. Just that's my If I can do that, then I feel like I've had a good day's work.
Well, Matt's bringing people to tears role-playing Forza, so...
Hey, somebody's got to do it. You just wait. We're going to have a worldwide following soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 3 people.
Yeah, he's role-playing the ghost of a dead race car driver. No, I don't know.
It's like The Wraith, yeah.
The Wraith, yeah. Classic movie there.
That's what I love about this style of role playing, though, is the challenge of doing those games that are unexpected, ones that you don't think are going to be possible to role play, and somehow they work out to be possible. Fallout 4 is one of those ones where a lot of people have been like, "Oh, it's not, it can't be done. We can't do it this way." But there are ways to make it work. There are already a lot of mods out there that can make it a lot more doable. It's going to be a challenge for sure, but it's going to be... I think the game is really ripe for roleplay, but it might be a little bit more specific and guided than some of the other games have been so far. It's a little bit harder to go kind of out the box with the character.
Yeah, you can't control who the character is at the beginning of the story, but you can control who they become, and that's the important part, I guess.
Definitely.
That's very cool. I'm interested always in getting people's perspective on that, because we've had conversations on this podcast about that sort of continuum that games are on, where on the one hand, a lot of times you get much richer story in games that are on rails, where the developers have more control over the storytelling, right?
Yeah. You can create a really crafted experience,
Yeah, exactly. Whereas in Skyrim, we have a bunch of, semi-interconnected quests with big gaps in between them that you fill in on your own. And, for those people who are interested in investing the time and have the kind of the sort of the creative mind for that sort of thing and kind of immerse themselves in that storytelling, then it's perfect. I think one of the things that I always have to be careful of is making sure that I don't deprive myself of really great game experiences because I'm worried that a game isn't going to fit the bill for me when it comes to, role play potential and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think of games, games like Witcher, right?
Yeah.
Where beautiful, rich environment, wonderful storytelling, but you're Geralt, you're this guy, right? You're the guy with the white hair and two swords, it doesn't feel as if, I could go in and play him as Geralt the Meek, that kind of thing, and have this story, because the story is kind of laid out. He's got his background and all that stuff. And in that instance, your role play experience is more about the mechanics of the role play experience and why you're choosing to do certain things instead of other things, and what particular choices you're making when it comes to dialogue options and quest pursuits and stuff like that. It becomes more about, those motivations that you have in your mind, how you want to play the character. If you want to have, Renegade Shepherd or Paragon Shepherd, for example.
I was just thinking Mass Effect, because it is one of those things where you really do have just the two choices, but I feel like sometimes that can be enough to make you feel like a character has become your own, because, some people can toe the line between both Renegade and Paragon, or some people can go one way fully or the other. And I think it's still a great experience. But it is definitely a different experience than say your kind of open world Bethesda style game.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think I find in those particular cases I tend to gravitate towards characters that are more extreme one way or another. What I found with Mass Effect is that I enjoyed the game more if I was either full-on Paragon or full-on Renegade. If I alternated in my decisions, it just got to a point where I felt like, a milquetoast, like everybody hated me. And, I had no close friends. Whereas if you go one route or the other, you may have a whole set of followers that despise you and won't do anything for you.
Yeah.
But you've got an equally large set of people who'll die for you, which is a richer experience in my view. But
it can be quite frustrating as well, though, because you do have sometimes it is two very, very extremes. So there isn't kind of an in-between. So when you are going to do a Renegade action, it is full-on just completely out there Renegade. So it can be quite strange, if you've been doing Paragon most of the time and then you just chuck in one Renegade action, it can just seem so completely just out there and just doesn't fit the character at all that it can be a bit cringy.
Yeah, it can. And so then you end up with all this stuff online where people are writing wikis about, what's the path I have to follow if I want to have a romantic relationship with Talia, right? And what are all the boxes I need to check?
Rather than just go with your feelings,
right? And inevitably I end up with the wrong chick every time. It's just kind of like, it's funny, but Yeah, it's interesting because I loved Mass Effect and I loved Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and all that stuff, but it's a very different experience. Still good. Was good enough for me to have to have Band-Aids on my thumbs for a day or so afterwards because I
great.
wore them raw playing Assassin's Creed. But very cool.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, just rewinding just a little bit, talking about the kind of the games that we role play with, and sometimes the ones that don't seem like they're kind of set up for that kind of role play, but are possible. The one that surprised me more than anything has been The Division. I didn't think when I started it that I would be able to kind of tell a story with it, but they've actually done a really good job at making a really decent world. The game's got a lot of flack. There are a lot of haters out there.
Yeah, there are.
Because it is an MMO, and I know that it hasn't really reached it in that regard. But for me, playing it through as a single player experience, it's really enjoyable. I'm enjoying it. It is difficult sometimes to kind of like rationalize why it takes 10 shots to the head to kill someone, but but it kind of works.
If you're using a ping pong ball gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's possible. It's definitely more difficult than some other games to role play, but still enjoyable, and it still does allow for the kind of character development and for things to affect my character as well and change him.
Yeah, I think the setting for that one is very interesting. I've never played the game myself. My only experiences with The Division have been through your role play, and it seems interesting. So
yeah, it's been the same thing for a lot of people where it isn't the kind of game that they'd play, but they enjoy the story that's being told with it, and that's kind of what it's like for me. I kind of enjoy playing it, but it's more just I don't know what's the right way to kind of explain it, but it's just a different avenue for me to explore and to role play, and it's a different character, and that's what excites me, I think.
The challenge.
Yeah.
So you have I know you have on YouTube a kind of a posted schedule of particular games that you release on particular days of the week. Do you still try to, stick to that schedule as best you can, or have you kind of moved on or
as much as possible? I kind of did a little bit of a schedule overhaul recently. But I do a lot of balance between my work life and YouTube life, and it can be quite hard sometimes when work kind of overtakes it, because I'm a freelancer, so it allows me to take time where I need it, where I can. But sometimes I'll have like a full week's worth of work away from home, and it can be difficult to kind of keep that schedule going. But I just do my best to keep everyone up to date with what's going on, so that no one's kind of sitting there refreshing, expecting something to be there when it's not. Because I know what that's like. I'm like that with a lot of other videos and series on YouTube where I'm like, oh, I swear it was meant to be out today. so
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do my best to try and keep everyone in the loop with what's going on.
Yeah.
And really keeping people up to date. And I'm going to be starting to do this new monthly segment at the end of each month, which is kind of going to be like a town hall, which is going to be a Q&A, but it's also going to be a chance for me to kind of lay the month out and kind of review the past month. But I'm trying to do the Q&A somewhat different, where the viewers are going to be able to ask questions to the characters themselves directly. And so when we were talking about backstories and the rest before, what's going to be quite cool for me from this is that it's going to give me the chance to flesh them out and make them even more three-dimensional, because these are going to be questions that I haven't thought to ask the characters myself.
Oh, yeah, very likely.
And so it's
really
great.
cool.
Like, yeah. So people have questions about Leon's family, what happened to them, because in the intro, it's a little vague as to what happened to them when he left Skyrim. So I'm going to be able to answer those questions as Leon and kind of explain more about himself and his past. And it's the same thing for other characters as well. So it gives me a chance to kind of flesh them out, and for people to be able to be the ones who are asking those questions as well.
That is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to do like a channel update, right? But to actually, it's almost like you're having a panel discussion, right?
Oh, yeah.
With,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like going to Comic-Con to a panel discussion where you can stand up to the
Ask
microphone and ask your favorite superhero a question or whatever.
Yeah,
That's pretty
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to try and be the intermediary, the interviewer. So I'll be interviewing each character individually, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure we'll get some
That's
witty
kind
retort
of really
from
awesome.
them. Yeah. So I'm excited about it.
Logan will just be like, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
I guess it depends which Logan they're asking the question to. That's going to be really difficult because I'm going to have to talk as two separate Logans. It's going to get real confusing.
What if Logan asks Logan a question?
Oh my god.
Well, I think it's the thing. I'm going to allow them to interact with each other as well. So, it'll be it'll be interesting to see.
How could you
glass
think
there.
that we looked good in these pants?
What was with that freaking helmet that looked like a penis that you were wearing back in Megaton? Really? We chose that? He's like, well, yeah, head protection. You got to wear helmets. Bullets suck. Yeah.
Oh, that's priceless. So, what else you got going on in your channel that you'd like to let people know about? What's coming up?
Well, I do have another kind of challenge for myself in terms of a series that I'm not quite sure how the roleplay is going to turn out. Very much like how The Division started for me. But I'm going to be doing a roleplay of Doom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll provide the
Yeah.
background music if you like.
Fantastic.
We'll send you the MP3.
Great. I was recording on my cell phone there. I got it then. Yeah. It's going to be my ringtone from now on.
Hear the excitement
It's
in
going to be
his
so much
voice.
better.
Yeah, he's like, oh, thank God.
I played that for
that
the first time at a fire station off of like 47 floppy disk install. Yeah,
the original.
for
Doom,
everybody
yeah.
who's listening with the fire department, I'm sure there's lots of them. It was installed like 47 folders deep in an application file, and I'm like, they're not going to find this. Like a 90 meg hard drive, and Doom took up almost all of it.
Yeah, I have some great memories of that game. The original. It was wonderful.
Yeah, we did this similar kind of thing, sneaking onto the computers at school, floppy disks as well, and good times. But it's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. And I don't think I'm going to have much of a voice afterwards because there's probably just going to be a hell of a lot of macho screaming and shouting. And I mean, I guess there's only so many ways that I can insult. The demon scum.
Yeah, I know. Right?
You might be surprised. You might find some very creative new ways to do that.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So that's my latest kind of announcement. Kind of expecting that to come out next month sometime. But yeah, I'm going to be recording the first episode in the next few days, and I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. It might be horrific for all I know, but it's a challenge. That's for sure. And again, this is another kind of protagonist who has a very vague backstory. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, you've taken on some pretty challenging role play missions. So I have a hard time seeing you have difficulty with this one as well. Maybe it's always a little difficult at the start, especially with a brand new game, something that you've maybe horsed around with a little bit, but never maybe played all the way through. I don't know. Maybe you've played it more than.
Only about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Just to get the controls under
all the background you need right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is to kind of go and try and go in blind like the character and just see how it goes.
That is going to be really interesting. I mean, Outlast was an interesting playthrough, because it's frightening, but it's frightening in a way that's not always in your face. You know, which gives you time to sort of react and to say things and to think about stuff a little bit. I'm sure there's going to be a couple quiet moments in Doom, but even so, it's maybe a different kind of frightening experience, Yeah.
It seems to just be kind of like full octane, just like nonstop. but there are some moments of serenity. Well, at least I hope. Otherwise, I'm just no voice. It's just going to be gone for good. Yeah.
You'll have to make some of your own, you know. So yes, we cleared out this, this flight hangar, and so I'm going to hang out here in 5 days and write my thoughts down for 5 days, or whatever. God, I hope there's food in here and what, I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I know that. I don't know if you've ever played Dead Space.
I haven't ever got the chance to do it. A few people have recommended it to me as a role play. I think it's the kind of thing that I'm going to look into once the kind of schedule dies down a little bit. But
that's another one of those, right? Where it's this kind of horrifying, dark alien kind of experience, right? And I have the game. I played through a fair amount of it, but it was really intense. I mean, I got to this point where I just couldn't handle it anymore because I was locked in a room with, a whole bunch of. It's one of these setups, right, where they lock you in a room with a whole bunch of crawling, terrifying, slavering enemies, right, and they're tearing the room up, and at the same time you're supposed to be fighting them, you're supposed to be doing the sophisticated thing on a computer with a key to open the door and get out at the same time. And I'm like, I just can't handle this, and they keep coming in waves and waves and waves. So there's never a point where the room's just clear and you can get on the computer and do this. You're supposed to work on the computer as they tear your back off, or whatever. It's the worst. And I got to a point where I'm like, man, I love the game and I love the atmosphere, but I just can't do it anymore. I set it aside and never went back, but I still have great memories of the parts that I did play, So, I don't know. That's going to be an interesting experience. I will definitely be watching that one.
Great. That's good to hear.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had some of those moments doing Whistleblower. I'm actually very close to finishing the series off at the moment. And I tell you, that is probably some of the most intense gameplay and like in a vocal work that I've done before in my life. It was just, it was draining. I did a whole day of trying to get towards the end of Whistleblower. And just because it was very hard for me to stop. Once I started and I was in the space, I couldn't leave Waylon alone. I had to stay with him and I had to finish it off, for good or bad.
Right.
I had to go through it with him. And it goes to some crazy dark places. Just they're gonna I think there's at least the last 2 or 3 episodes are gonna have to be marked as R18 on YouTube because it's too much. It's and I have my brother-in-law is living with me at the moment and my wife, and he was here when I was recording it, and he was really concerned, as I think my neighbors probably would have been as well, because there is a moment, and I won't go into too much detail, but you are tied down onto a table, nude, and there is a circular saw spinning between your legs, and I'll leave the rest up to your imagination.
Holy hell. No, thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, that is intense.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the screaming. Yeah.
But being in that situation and just it's once it kind of gets to that point as well, it's pretty nonstop. There's a lot of things going on.
I think I'm okay that this isn't in VR yet.
Jeez, that would be terrible. There'd be people having heart attacks and strokes.
No kidding.
But I think those
your
two
game
games,
includes an automatic defibrillator. Make sure to tell your family how to use it.
Built right into the console.
Yeah, it's detached to your chest you're playing.
Yep.
Yeah. I think those two games, Outlast, they really do, especially when it comes to role-playing, they really push you. They push you really far. And I think especially just the main vanilla game with Miles, you slowly start to descend into madness as you kind of go deeper and deeper into the asylum. And it makes sense because of everything that you've been through is changing you and is affecting your mind. And it's a non-stop barrage. It's not like you get to break and go away. You're there constantly. You're there and you can't get away. It's just in your face all the time, and you're slowly just starting to lose your sanity. And to role play that it's a challenge. And I think that's why I've enjoyed those two the most, because they have really pushed me to go to those places with those characters. And I think that's why I'm slightly anxious and nervous about Fallout 4, because the start of that game is intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they almost just brush over it.
Yeah.
It's over very quickly. Your wife or your husband is killed right in front of you. Your child is stolen, and it's going to be harsh. It's going to be difficult to kind of go to that place. But I think for like a proper emotionally invested role play, I'll need to go to those places. And what's great is that is really going to charge and fuel the character in a way like I think no other series has so far. Because looking at Skyrim, the main idea with the story in Skyrim is that you're, at least in the vanilla story, you're the Dragonborn. You're destined to save the world from Alduin.
Mm-hmm.
It's this great big fate that you're heading directly towards, but it's there is a sense of urgency to it, but it's not super urgent. Like there is always this side where you can deny it and you can be like, no, I don't want this responsibility. I can't do it. You can kind of put it away. But when your child's taken from you and you don't know where they are, you only have a vague idea of that direction, you're going to be an unstoppable storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
I don't see many side quests happening during that.
Yeah.
I don't see the character helping many other people out, because it's such a personal thing for the character that you aren't going to let that go. You're not going to let it down. It's just like nonstop, no sleep, just keep on pushing.
Yeah.
Trying to find your child. It's going to be. I think that's going to be the next big challenge in terms of role playing for me is going to that place and trying to, as best as I can, realistically portray a father who has not only lost the love of their life, but also their child has been taken from them. Mm-hmm. So it's
there's either this one, on the one hand, you're relentlessly pursuing the main quest line, right? To try and retrieve your child, or if your attempts to find the child are foiled in some way, then you're also looking at kind of a slow descent or rapid descent into madness as you can't attain your goals, and you can't, and with each passing day, the worry gets worse. The pictures you're painting inside your head get more severe and more traumatic, right? So, I think that there's opportunities there, right? As a person who's gone through the game once before and kind of maybe is able to tell where some of those clues are that guide you down the main quest line or down that path, there's also an opportunity to intentionally avoid those things too, I suppose, to try to enhance the story. I don't know. Yeah, as we're all fathers, so thinking about that idea of something happening to your child and not being able to do anything about it is maddening. It would be crazy. Yeah. So, that'll be really interesting to see how you handle that. I had toyed around with the idea of role-playing Fallout 4, but I have since abandoned the idea just because I just don't see myself investing the time right now. So I'll be watching yours. I've watched some of your test play, but I'm really intrigued by how you'll role play that. That'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, I did. That's the thing as well, because I don't know. I don't know which direction the character will go in, and I guess that's what we were talking about before about it being a world simulator. Is that there are so many different things that can happen that will shape the character and change the direction that they're going. And the only thing that Fallout 4 is really missing for me at the moment is the ability to control animations, and it's something that will happen very shortly. I hope now that the creation kit's out, the modding community will be able to get their hands on that, and hopefully I'll get something where I'll actually be able to control animations, and that's kind of the last key that needs to be put in there to unlock it.
Yeah, I would say so. And then, once we get a year down the road here, there's going to be all kinds of new options. I suppose that there'll be opportunities for, people to create plugins for this game that maybe give you some alternatives to the authored experience that you don't have now.
Definitely. Yeah,
So,
I mean,
something
it'll be
to
like
look forward
Skyrim with the alternative starts that you have for Skyrim. So yeah, I mean, there are mods that completely do away with the Dragonborn altogether. So yeah, I think that we will see those things for Fallout 4 as well.
Yeah.
Which would be great because it will allow for those different style of role plays and because I mean I think there's still more than enough content in there with the main kind of storyline set aside. The factions and everything and everything, kind of in between. Even just the day-to-day life and survival in that space. I think there's a lot of potential in that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. So my plan is that once those mods are available, I'm going to basically be the Dragonborn in Boston. That's my plan. So,
All right.
so I will go down into the Soul Cairn, and it will actually be post-apocalyptic Boston.
Yes.
And then I will play as the Dragonborn, and I'll have to try to understand how guns work and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll catch on. No problems.
Right.
No problems.
Okay. Yeah, maybe get some Deathclaw friends.
Yeah.
Absorb their soul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
breathe fire, do they? They don't fly either, no. So
Yeah, not yet,
Yes.
but who knows?
yeah, I know. Well, this has been awesome talking to you, Scott. This has been a great discussion. Just really rich conversation around this idea of role play and our favorite games and what they allow us to do. And one thought I had that would be really amazing is it would be when you are actually recording a role play, are you like sitting at your desk or do you stand up, or how do you, when you're doing the voice acting pieces of that?
I go with a sitting position. I find it a little bit easier for me to be sitting just because the different voices, they come out in different ways. And I find that if I'm just like grounded, I can take care of them in that position.
Yeah,
But
I think it
when
would be interesting to just have an HD camera filming yourself role-playing Doom.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be
yeah.
a completely separate stream, just
Just set your phone up and let it run.
and just see what that looks like, because it's impossible to create an expression in your voice without also having that on your face. And
Or in your hands,
very
or
true.
in
Yes.
jumping
There would
back
be-
and screaming.
There's probably going to be a lot of saliva over the lens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We have purchased acrylic in the past for some of our previous filming shenanigans
Spit
with paint
screens.
cans and spit screens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So, like there are a lot of times when we're doing voiceover work or something like that where Matt's instructing me to put my hands over my head so I can get a bigger voice, and stuff like this and all these little tricks. And he's like, put your hands over your head and then it opens up your lungs and you get a bigger sounding voice when I'm trying to be theatrical or
Make
something
yourself
like
a
that.
big person. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was kind of funny.
It makes a difference when you can gesticulate and get big, if that's what you need to do. If you sit and you're all hunched down like your hands are on the keyboard, sometimes that just isn't it,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I got to get a microphone boom so I have more freedom of movement when I'm recording, especially now that I'm recording the audio live as I'm recording the gameplay. I used to record after the fact because I was writing scripts, and I'm trying to get away from that a little bit. So now my setup needs to change a little bit because I'm finding that, I'm bumping the microphone stand all the time, and it's becoming a hassle.
We need to get you like an NFL headset with a big mic on the front.
That would be ideal.
Or maybe you could use the thing that's on your head right now.
Full mobility. I can just walk around the
And then you can
office
have these
space.
screens on swinging arms that you have coming down from the
Yes.
ceiling, just in like an empty space, an empty room that's nice and soundproof.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah, and I'll just put like a dummy in there too that I can whack with a wooden sword during fight scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
really
yeah.
get into it.
That's got to be probably
Nice.
one of the most difficult things is trying to do those sounds of
Yeah.
combat and making it sound the least amount like you're having sex as possible, because there is like a really thin line.
Yeah,
It's so easy to cross.
Oh,
And
I'm sure
especially
your
if-
brother-in-law was really wondering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, when Leon is fighting a dragon, yeah, there's a thin line.
What the hell's going on in there?
God, if the sword strikes weren't so rhythmic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Scott. We sure appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a blast. So we're going to look forward to seeing all kinds of new stuff on Rycon Roleplays. It sounds like you got some pretty cool things coming up. If you're interested in checking out Scott on YouTube, you can just, Google Rycon Roleplays. That'll take you straight to his YouTube site. You've got some other resources out there too, right? You're on Twitter and so forth, right?
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, and now Instagram as well.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. Do a little bit of episode teasing on the old
Yeah.
Instagram.
That's what you got to do. All
Yeah.
right.
Great
All right.
pleasure talking to you.
Well, yeah, have a great day. You're just getting started, so enjoy your day.
Yeah. Midday here in New Zealand, so I'm going to get stuck back in and start recording.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
alright.
you very much.
Well, dear listener, we have come to the end of another episode. We would like to thank fans of the show for your faithful support and continued encouragement. Your enthusiasm is the lifeblood of this podcast, and whether your support comes through support on Patreon with dollars, through iTunes with reviews, or through recommendations to friends and family, we appreciate it all. You can contact us through our website at charactercrusade.com. And until next time, remember, it's not about the objective. It's about the journey. So go forth and experience.